Welcome to Munching with Michael, the all-you-can-eat buffet of food, culture, history, and just an all-around good time. Be sure to sign up for notifications, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit up our Instagram, and edit our Wikipedia page to include erroneous facts that aren't even true. Come along.
All right. And we're rolling. This is it. We have just started the official Munching with Michael podcast. This is episode 1. This is the first one. And I'm joined today by our namesake, the patriarch, our godfather, Mike McNamara. Hey, Michael.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me today. This is really special.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so here we are. So this is the first time that we've ever done a podcast. This is the first time I've ever done a podcast. Have you ever done a podcast before?
I've never done a podcast. I've listened to a lot of podcasts, but I've never actually done one.
So would you say that you're a big podcast guy?
I would say I'm a big podcast guy, yeah.
Nice. Me too. Only recently, only in maybe the last couple of years or so, I've kind of gotten turned on to the idea. Maybe it's just finding the right podcast. If you find the right podcast, then all of a sudden it's like a valid way to spend your time, I think.
Yeah, I think when the times are good, you could be swimming in podcasts, but then sometimes it gets kind of hard to find the right one.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I think this is going to be a great podcast for our listeners.
I think you're right. Yeah, I'm very excited because I think that we have a lot to say, and I think that people are going to think it's really interesting.
Uh-huh.
So I think probably the biggest question that I have to start off, it's kind of open-ended. It just says, "Who are you?" But I think that's a little complicated. So I think let's give a little context. So you and me, I think we probably would have met, middle school? I think probably middle school.
Yeah, 8th grade.
8th grade. So that would have been between 1999 and 2000.
Correct.
So I would say that would put us at least 20 years, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember going to your house. I remember playing basketball at your house. The first time I think we really hung out. I think we were pretty evenly matched.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's interesting.
Yeah. I think you wore your Karl Malone jersey. Yeah.
I still have that jersey, actually. It still comes out from time to time.
That's good.
Yeah, because now I guess I'm kind of far removed from that, but I remember when I was in grad school a few years ago and actually went out and did a lot of socializing, 90s themed things were actually, that's like a thing. So actually hanging on to that has been really beneficial because that's really authentic.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's interesting. So we've known each other for about 20 years. We've been friends for, I'd say about 20 years. And then in March of last year, 2020, is when we all decided that we were going to launch Munching with Michael.
Correct.
Yeah. Now, the way that I remember it, I don't remember necessarily how it started, but from what I recall, I remember that I was living in San Antonio. I moved to San Antonio and started working January 1st or 2nd of 2020. And then that's when the COVID-19 pandemic started. So by mid-March, everything was kind of shutting down. We had all the stay-at-home orders. I just happened to I had a wedding that was planned for March 28th, and that did not happen. So my recollection, so the way I remember it was just kind of sitting in San Antonio looking for stuff to do. And I don't remember. Do you remember exactly how this came up?
I think it was mostly because I was a chef and I had lost my job. And this was like our easy way of supporting me and my profession. Because I was, I had all this free time as well. So maybe I just remember it in a very me-centric way.
Well, no, I remember that was kind of like the rallying commonality
Yeah.
of it. Definitely. Absolutely. And that's one thing I did want to get into. So you are a chef. And one thing that I want,
Yeah.
yes, you are a chef. And one thing I actually wanted to talk about for a little bit was kind of your origin story of getting a chef, because we went to the same middle school and we went to the same high school. And when we graduated high school, we went to the same college, University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, go Panthers, UWM, right?
Yeah.
And as I had left after, I moved down to Chicago after 2 years. And then I remember that you started on your culinary or culinary. How do you pronounce that?
I think it's really chef's choice right there.
What's your choice then?
I say culinary.
Oh, culinary. Then I'm with you. Culinary. So how did you start? Okay. How did you start on your culinary journey? What was that like?
Well, I would say it all started. I was dating a young lady back then, and I remember waking up at her house, and I was walking on my way to an exam, and I walk into the exam room, and nobody else was in there. And I say, huh. So I walk back to her house, go on a computer, and I check the exam date, and it was actually the day before. And I just remember thinking, I guess I'm going to culinary school. And I applied to culinary school for the next semester. And
that was at UWM?
And here I am today.
That was at UWM?
That was UWM. I mean, I wasn't doing great in my other classes. As if I can quote a movie from the early 90s, I spent my time occupying various administration buildings. So I I ended up just not giving my all into the university, but I think I did pretty darn well in the tech school, if you will.
Sure. Now this is kind of anecdotal. Who is the girl?
That was Chelsea.
Do I remember Chelsea?
I think you've met Chelsea.
I think so.
Joe Stambo's friend.
Yes, that's right. Muskego gal, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, Muskego girl.
Very good. Yeah, that's actually, you want to know what? That's really, that's encouraging to hear, because I also have missed an exam at UWM.
It can't be us. It's got to be them and the way they post their exams.
The internet was brand new and they barely knew how to use it. How are we supposed to know?
Yeah, back in 2007.
I distinctly remember that's actually and actually sleeping through or completely missing one of my exams was also kind of an aha moment for me, that if I could fail so colossally that I couldn't even bother making it to a final, maybe what I was doing wasn't what I needed to be doing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's definitely kind of an aha moment.
If the listeners are curious at this point, you are a doctor. So, I mean, I think you ended up pretty good yourself.
I have a doctorate. But, I think it was probably similar to you, where it's not a matter of intelligence. It's just, do you like what you're doing? If you like what you're doing, then all of a sudden, going to school, it becomes
a lot more tolerable.
A lot more tolerable and a lot more fun, and there's a lot more... Yeah. It's much better. So... so that's it. So you went to culinary. So you decided to go to culinary. Now, where did you go?
So I went down the road to MATC, Milwaukee Area Technical College.
Yes.
Just kind of planning on getting a regular associate's degree. I didn't really think it was that big of a deal to have in the restaurant world, and it really proved out that was right. It's really not that important in the restaurant world. It's more about the work put in than the degree that you have. But I ended up going to MATC, and I did pretty well there. It was pretty easy. I am thankful for the fact that I didn't go to the cordon bleu, and a lot of the people I know that did, they are very, very much in debt. So I guess that's one benefit of the tech school route.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then so people, I don't think it's that uncommon, or and maybe it is, maybe it isn't, for people to have kind of a light bulb aha moment where maybe they get like a moment of clarity to start, transitioning towards something that's going to be more of a long-term solution for what they're going to do in life. So you had that kind of a moment, and you decided that culinary school is what you wanted to do. But I get the sense that something like that probably doesn't, happen overnight. So it's probably something that was somewhere down in your subconscious, or maybe you like, where did the desire to want to go to culinary school come from?
I mean, as you remember, like in high school, I was always, I think, the friend that would cook the most, or the most interested in it, at least. And when we lived together at UWM, we did the family dinner nights, which I still look fondly upon. That was a great time. Getting some friends over and cooking a big meal, and I was kind of always in charge of those. So I'd always had a history of cooking, always into it. I guess I was always kind of scared of going down that path because I heard a lot of drug use, a lot of alcohol, poor hours. It's not really conducive to a normal life. So those kind of reasons, I thought I'd just kind of cash in and get a generic degree at a university. But when that didn't happen, I knew culinary was always something I wanted to do, or was always interested in at least, and something I was always kind of naturally good at, I guess, or naturally had an affinity to. Therefore, I was better at.
Do you come from a big food family? Was food like a big deal in your family growing up with family gatherings, or?
I think my grandma was a big cook. She cooked a lot of scratch cooking. Parents, not so much. And I think that might have kind of spurred an interest in me because I kind of had to not fend for myself so much, but, I did cook on my own much more often, I think at a younger age.
Interesting. And then at that time,
I always had
Oh, go ahead.
I always had an interest in history and culture, I guess. When I was going to the university, I was going for history and education. So I've always kind of been interested in culture, and I think that has a lot to do with cooking. I think cooking is a big part of culture. So I always, enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah.
Learning the history of it, learning the different ways, different areas cook, the ingredients that they used, and how that kind of boils down into you see what I did there?
Yeah. That is interesting that you talk about the culture and the history, especially that you can kind of tap into that as a younger person, because I feel like myself now, a lot of like kind of the media or the when I have time to watch television or, kind of unwind, like I've just been completely obsessed with like, whatever cooking shows are on just the last couple of years. And I feel like that's kind of why. It's not necessarily even the food, it's the history lessons, learning about the regions and the ingredients and why do people do the things that they do. But I never really tapped into that until just the last few years. So I think it's really interesting that, even in your younger days, maybe at the time, if you're just tasked with making something for a group dinner, as like a 20-year-old, maybe that's not necessarily on your mind is why you're interested in it. Or maybe it is, I don't know. But I think it's really interesting that, even at a very young age, you had kind of the sense of mind to be drawn to that aspect of the field, Yeah. But I guess it makes sense, I guess it makes sense. So, so then, okay, so you were at MATC, which is an associate's degree program, right?
Correct.
So that's 2 years, something like that.
2 years.
Okay,
yeah, 2 years.
So what happens after 2 years? So you go to MATC, you start your cooking courses, find that you got a little bit of a knack for it, right? I would imagine. Confidence is starting to grow.
Yeah.
And
so then, as I'm learning a lot during that time. I'm kind of working at that time. I'm working at a kind of a dive bar right next to the Bucks, where the Bucks play their home games, which is the Bradley Center at the time. Now they play at the Pfizer Forum. So
go Bucks.
Bucks are playing their games at the Bradley Center. I work like a block away, just kind of flipping burgers at a place. Looking back, I had way more control than I realized, and I could have taken advantage of it. But I was young, and I didn't really do that. So I was working there for a while. I finally graduated, and at the same time, a mutual friend of ours was planning on moving to Portland, Oregon, to go out west with his wife. But that didn't really work out, and he broke up with his. I guess that was his wife at the time. He got married, and he shouldn't have gotten married. And he was looking for some. He still wanted to move out west, and I had nothing going on at the time. So I said, John, I will move out with you, and that's John Thompson.
That's right. That is John Thompson.
Munching with Michael member.
Yeah, that's Munching with Michael. I don't know if he still could be considered a regular contributor, but he's definitely a contributor.
Definitely a contributor.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yeah, John Thompson, a staple, a friend to the brand.
Who is still out in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah,
who is still. So I lived a year there with John, and I worked at a bakery. I didn't realize there were 4 culinary schools I had to compete with, and in Portland. So I found it very hard to get a job. I finally found one at a bakery, which was all right. I learned a little bit. I got a job offer back in Milwaukee, and left after about a year.
Yeah, that's right. Because I remember you guys coming and visiting in Phoenix, because I was fresh in Phoenix, and you guys had made it out. That's right. I remember I was living in Queen Creek with my girlfriend at the time's sister, who had a really nice home. She had a beautiful. I believe you guys stayed with us, right? We were at a nice home. Is that right?
A beautiful place. Yeah, I remember taking a shower there, and you guys had a lot of products in the shower that I messed around with.
That's right, because at the time she was in visual merchandising for the Philosophy brand of skincare. That's right. And I thought that Philosophy skincare line was done, but now with Alyssa, my fiance, we spend a lot of time at Marshall's, and Philosophy is alive and well, and you can get their products at Marshall's. So. But yeah, no. So I remember you guys coming out on your way. I was so excited to have visitors. That was, oh my God, that was so wonderful. It was very rare. I was in Phoenix for 9 years. It was very rare to see anybody out there. It's really far away, so that makes sense.
And people shouldn't be living in Phoenix. It's just not a place to live.
I think what's the line?
It's not conducive to.
The line from King of the Hill. I believe that. I think Bobby said that Phoenix is a tribute to man's arrogance. The reason, why people even live there makes no sense.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I think so. That's a line that I always laugh about. I always think about it. Yeah, as long as we'll see, Phoenix should be okay. I would love to one day get back to Phoenix. I really enjoyed my time there. Just as long as the Colorado River doesn't dry up. And depending on what goes on with the average climate, we'll see. But you're absolutely right. Like, it doesn't seem like a very sustainable place, but it's a lovely place. It's a very nice place, really pretty, great in the winter.
Yeah.
So okay. So you spent time in Portland. You were in Portland for 1 year, and then you got a job offer back in Milwaukee, which brought you back home to roost, back to Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Sure.
What was the job in Milwaukee?
It was to work at a hotel, which actually fell through because the guy that was working there that offered me the job got fired. So, so I actually found a job almost immediately, what ended up being the busiest restaurant in Milwaukee. I was there for a little bit, for 2 years.
What was the restaurant?
Then, I started it was Cafe Benelux.
That's right. I haven't lived in Milwaukee for 16 or 17 years, and I know Cafe Benelux. It's one of those places.
Yeah. It was I still tell people about how busy it was, and people can't believe it. So I worked there for about 2 years, and then I got into the fine dining world with which is the Bartolotta Restaurant Group, which has a couple of James Beard Award winning chefs in it. So that was kind of my big branch out into a bigger and better world.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then, so let's see. So then you were at the Bartolottas, and then what were you doing with those guys? Or what's kind of the time frame? So we were at Portland. bakery for a year, moved back to Milwaukee. That would have been in, 2012? That you moved back to
Because
Milwaukee?
then I started.
2 years. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
And then 2 years at Cafe Benelux. So that would have put you about 13, 14, right?
And there was some overlap with the Bartolotta's and Benelux. That was a crazy time in which I was working like 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
Um,
And then what were,
and then,
okay. So you're,
then I went.
oh, so what, real quick though, just to kind of give me an idea. So you're you're a few years into the industry. You've got a couple different jobs under your belt. So when you were at like Benelux and Bartolotta's, what were you doing? What was kind of your role in the organizations there? Or like title? I don't know if you had a title. What would the title be?
So Benelux would have been my first what they would call a line job.
Yep.
Where you're a line cook. You actually are, the order comes in and you execute the order and you send it out. As opposed to like a prep cook, which is like prepping orders for the line cook or prepping product for the line cook. So there I worked the flat top, which was interesting because Benelux had their concept was what is called a pannekuchen, and it is this.
It sounds like a pancake in German translation.
Correct. Yeah. So Benelux stands for Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg.
That's right. That's right.
So it was like, what would they call that? Northern Central Europe. And they had these giant pancakes, probably 16 inches across. That was, filled with stuff and topped with stuff and, sweet and savory. So anyway, the flat top was in charge of that position. So that was pretty fun to do that. And then I worked the saute station at, which is, a different station at the Bartolotta's.
So then once you start getting into like the fine dining world, is that kind of the layout of what the kitchen looks like? Is you have multiple stations and you have one person kind of attending the different stations, or is it different? I mean, I would imagine it's quite different, but is that kind of the general structure?
So it's called the brigade system. It's it's based off of a military brigade. And yeah, oh God, one of our listeners is definitely going to correct me in the comments. I can see that coming, right? But it usually goes down, executive chef or corporate chef would be at the very top. And then like a chef de cuisine and then below that would be a sous chef and then after sous chef would be a commis or kami, and that would be all the kind of the positions on the line. So the grill, the saute, the fry, the garde manger, which is cold kitchen. Yeah, that's what garde manger means. So garde manger would be like salads and some appetizers and stuff.
That sounds like a lot of French terms.
Below that yeah, but it really is. It is, if you get into a serious French cooking, it'd be like roti would be like the big roast chef, or the cook who cooks all the roasts. The entremetier would be the vegetable cook, and you can really, I don't know if restaurants still really do it that segregated, but usually you have your grill cook, you have your saute cook, you have your fry cook. You have your garde manger cook. Garde manger usually does desserts too. And yeah, that's how most kitchens are broken down nowadays.
Wow. So, I mean, you name all those different stations. So I'm trying to think of like somebody to become truly well-rounded and like know how to do everything. You can spend a lot of time. I mean, it probably takes a really, really long time to get good at all of those things or get experience. Like I had no idea. Like I know executive chef and sous chef and, line and like the really, really basic terms, but I had no idea it got down to like that specialized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Saute is going to be making
onions.
In some restaurants is going to be making, what?
Sauteing onions. They might saute onions.
I mean, yeah, it happens definitely. Yeah. Well, saute is going to be saute is just like a pan on a what is it called?
Heat.
On a range. Right?
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
It's pan on heat. So they're going to be making steaks. So like they still have the skills to make a steak on a grill. It's all kind of the same. You know, a lot of them are transferable, and usually grill is thought of as the highest position.
Yeah.
And it usually is. Saute is a close second. You usually stick the new guy at fry or garde manger. Yeah.
Awesome. Very nice. Okay. So then you're at Bartolotta's. Okay, right? We're continuing the journey. So you're at Bartolotta's. How long are you with Bartolotta's?
Yep. I lasted about 7 years.
7 years. That's right. And that was up to your most recent position, right?
Kind of. So most recently, the Bartolotta's opened, or they were hired by a rich guy in Chicago to open. He wanted to open a restaurant for some reason in Milwaukee. Tell Alyssa, bless you.
You could hear that?
And oh yeah, most definitely.
Oh my God, that's literally down the hallway in another room. Yeah, this microphone, very sensitive, very sensitive. I can do that. Alyssa,
Very
Michael
sensitive.
says bless you. Yeah. Yeah, he can hear you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so the Bartolotta's were hired to open up a restaurant for a guy from Chicago in Milwaukee. And so I kind of knew the chef. You know, a bunch of the Bartolotta chefs left to help open that restaurant. When the two parties split ways, you know, some of the chefs stayed there. So when I was leaving the Bartolotta's, I contacted the chef, said, hey, you know, I'm looking for, at that time I was just looking for a part-time job because I just had a child. And he hired me on right away.
Phenomenal. Yeah, that's great. So that is quite a lot of bouncing around. That's quite extensive. And then that lasted until I don't know if our listeners have ever heard of it, but there's actually a global pandemic called COVID-19 going on.
Jim, it's redundant to say global and pandemic. It's just pandemic because
Oh.
pandemic. Yeah.
Pandemic
is saying,
implies
like,
the global.
Yeah, it would be an epidemic, would just be localized.
So what you're saying is I just wasted a lot of time by saying global and pandemic in the same sentence.
Yes.
Yeah. So
a ton of time.
Yeah. Okay. All right. First of all, thank you for that. So the pandemic called.
I just don't want you to make that mistake again.
No. And actually, I probably won't. Come to think of it, all right, we have a pandemic. Could I say global epidemic?
I think that by definition, a global epidemic would be a pandemic.
Okay. All right. Noted.
Yeah.
So then the pandemic
It should
hit.
I've heard it will all be over by Easter, so it's not that big of a deal.
That's good. Last Easter, and then it got pushed out until the election results, November 6th.
Well, it got pushed. Then it got pushed to when it starts getting warmer.
Hot.
And then November 4th. And then
November 4th.
January
Yeah,
21st.
that's right.
You know, I feel like we're losing a lot of listeners right now, Jim.
That's okay. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm just talking about what I remember, you know. It happened.
Yeah.
We didn't say one way or the other, you know. It just happened that we heard that. So, but yeah, I feel like we're turning a corner pretty quick. I think so. I hope so.
I hope so.
I hope so. So that happened, and then stay at home orders start, and then that's when you transition to full-time at-home care of your lovely child.
That's correct.
And here we are, just like that. And then from that, Munching with Michael was born. A tale of one real.
I think really Munching with Michael really took off and was taking up a lot of my time at that point.
Yeah, me too. Although actually more so in the last couple of weeks, really just this year. This year is when I think things have really started taking off. I think that's really when we started, or when we kind of transitioned from a merely a YouTube cooking channel, truly to more of a global multimedia empire, I would say.
Correct.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because we had some good videos in March. Some of the OGs was phenomenal. And then it seemed like we took a break for a while, picked up a little bit more in the fall. And then now, yeah, we're going strong, coming out with some great new content. I think, I'll always think I'm always our biggest fan, I think.
Yeah, remember to like and subscribe.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, remember, if you haven't seen any of our YouTube videos, we're up to 18. Episode number 18 just got published. That's something to think about. We've had 18 episodes, and I think that's really good. I'm very impressed with us. A range of dishes too. We've got some vegetarian stuff. Your baking is phenomenal. I'm always impressed anytime you're doing anything that involves baking. I'm always really excited. I know your sourdough recipe is.
Well, Jim, is this
What's
this a good time to let our listener? Well, for all the listeners that listen this far in, we got a little something coming up called Sourdough Saturday.
Yeah, tell me about Sourdough Saturday.
So I'm going to challenge myself for, the next couple weeks to, I'm not going to say couple, more than a couple, to try to do a sourdough, to release a new sourdough video every Saturday, at least until the summer, right? So let's pick a number, Jim. What do you think? Six videos?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I think that sounds reasonable.
Okay, let's
I'll
do
hold
6
you to
videos.
that. Now, so here's a question I have. So you're a big sourdough guy. Would you say you're a big sourdough guy?
Yeah, I've been doing it for a few years.
Yeah. Why are you a big sourdough guy? Like, it seems like in the culinary world, I feel like baking is very much a different type of animal. Like I cook all the time. I most of the meals I eat are meals that I cooked, scratch myself. Not that they're good or complex, but I take raw ingredients, I make them into food. I don't bake. I never bake. So, why are you a sourdough guy? What's up with that?
I think I really enjoy making food like it was made a really long time ago. Not because I think it's any better. I think it's probably a lot better nowadays. But I enjoy the how do I put it? The complete control, I guess, over all the ingredients. Where it's like, this is my cultivated sourdough. I've researched, how to grow wheat. I just decided it's way too much work. But I still like having it in the back of my head. I like to have as much control over something as I can. And I think sourdough is a good place to start.
Yeah, I suppose that's like the ultimate accountability, right? Because the end product is the culmination of, that's just on you, right?
Yeah, it's like everything is really on me at that point.
Okay, well, good.
I think sourdough itself is a lot of fun. It's harder. It's a lot harder to kind of rein in that yeast and get it to where you want to be.
It's harder compared to other bread styles, you would say? Is that what you mean when you say it's harder?
It's it acts differently than yeast that is bred for baking. That is ready at your go, right?
Uh-huh. Nice, very nice. Now, so you're calling it. You're saying it now. Sourdough Saturday from now until summer, baby.
Yeah.
Now, the sourdough video that you made, I don't remember which episode it was. Maybe 13, 14, maybe something like that.
So, yeah, I think in that 13, 14 range.
Now, the end product was really, really nice. I remember seeing that grin on your face when you broke that baby open. You look very pleased. How was that bread, relatively speaking, as far as sourdough goes? Were you happy with that result?
I was happy, but I wasn't thrilled. I definitely made better. And I think I was rushed a little bit at that time. In the proofing point, and I think I could do a little bit better. What would that be? I can't think of the name of it. My apologies. This is bad podcasting.
Oh, that's all right. This is already bad. This started as bad podcasting. We're fine.
I'm sorry, I figured out the bulk fermentation part.
Okay. Do you, so as somebody who does this professionally, preparing food, do you feel like having a camera or documenting your process, do you feel like that puts any added pressure, or for you, is it just business as usual? It doesn't really change anything. Is it more stressful?
It's a little bit more stressful. I think it makes me realize my flaws a lot more. I think since I started cooking, I've always played a game where I always try to pick two things wrong with everything I make, which I think saying out loud sounds very toxic, but I think it's very.
I love it. I think I love it.
I enjoy. I enjoy it, and I used to make my wife Michelle pick out two things wrong with everything I make, and I think she got a little sick of that. But I still try to pick out two things wrong that I can. I shouldn't say wrong. Two things I can improve on in everything I make. And very rarely have I not been able to do that. So I think there's always room for improvement. When I go back and look at videos, I definitely think definitely in a production value, like, oh man, my cupboards are open, or that counter doesn't look very clean, or, I shouldn't have, there's a lot of production stuff. There's a lot of the most recent video I released was a salad video. And
Niçoise.
Yeah, the Niçoise salad.
Yep.
And I wish I would have, there's little things like I should have tossed something as starchy and big as a potato and as solid as a potato. I should have tossed that in its own vinaigrette and then plated it. Like little things like that. I think there's always stuff to think about and work on. So I think it's actually been good for me to think about something before I make it, because I think I've been getting lazy and not thinking about things before I make them, especially for dinner for my family, and really thinking about things and then looking back on things as well.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, and I think I think that concept can be applied to a lot of things, right? It's kind of rare to have the opportunity that you can kind of do things that are very normal, you would do every day, you wouldn't think about it, but have some sort of framework in which you can maybe set a little bit more intention with it, or care a little bit more, or I don't know, just, commit to the process of it being better. Maybe it's not something you're doing for work, but that doesn't mean that what you're doing can't, I don't know, you can't try to make it better, improve the process or whatnot.
Cooking's a weird thing in which everybody does it, or at least eating, everybody does it, 2 to 3 times a day. I mean, you really can't think of another job in which that's an everyday thing.
Everyday thing for every person.
Every person, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. Yeah, some people are phenomenal. Some people, yeah, and even just the spectrum of people's relationships with food, right? I mean, even that is quite varied. Somebody who cooks a lot, somebody who doesn't, somebody who cares a lot about what they eat, somebody who doesn't, care at all about what they eat, somebody who wants something complex, somebody who wants something simple, somebody who are eating for, I don't know, fitness versus somebody who's eating just to get full. It's you never get sick of that, right? I mean, who knows? No. Yeah, you spend an entire lifetime, dealing with that. I think that's really interesting. So maybe there's a little bit of added pressure, but it sounds like you've been able to kind of use that as a mechanism for improvement, or just, continuing to think about what you're doing, having intention, and trying to improve processes.
Yeah. I think it's the kind of the part of the job that I miss, and I think Munching with Michael has provided that. That's something to look forward to, something to think about when you're not, when you're not about to do it, I guess, for lack of a better way to describe it.
Yeah, and
something
then,
to look forward to.
Yeah, and that's interesting too, because just because you're not like out of the house going into somebody else's kitchen and quote unquote punching it and working, that's not to say that you don't have other avenues in food that you're working with. I mean, you have several other things that you're doing right now that I'm aware of, right? Involved with food based out of your own home, right? Because I know that you've been doing you've done meal prepping, right? For other people. Is that right?
Yeah. So I am meal prepping for a bodybuilder right now. It is it's maybe a reminder of how some people eat. It's nothing I'm proud of is the wrong way to say it, but it's a different way of cooking than I'm used to. It's very much interested in the nutrient count more than the flavor, or more than the technique, or more than the looks. It's more of like how can I get my protein and my fat and my carbs in the most efficient and I guess best tasting way.
Yeah, and probably clean, I would imagine. Simple ingredients, I would assume.
You know what? This guy doesn't really care. He loves the fake sugar. He doesn't really care. To be honest,
As long as he's hitting his macros, he doesn't care.
As long as it meets his criteria. Yeah.
So yeah.
Just like ground beef. He likes ground beef. He likes it in a sauce, and he likes it with some boiled cauliflower.
Yeah.
I do that for him.
Yeah, baby. So I'm talking. Gains.
Yeah, that's what he's interested in. And it's nice to be reminded that sometimes you got to eat to live, and sometimes you live to eat.
Sure,
and this
for
guy
sure.
is definitely eat to live.
Food is fuel. I mean, I feel like I very much align with that. The food is fuel. I mean, like most of the time during the week for lunch, I skip breakfast. I wouldn't necessarily call myself an intermittent faster, but I'm definitely like a eat at lunch, eat a big dinner, and
I try
don't
to eat
snack
around 11 or 12.
Yeah. Yep. 11 or 12, try to be done by about 8:00 in the evening and just don't really snack, But I mean, my lunch is usually a microwaved sweet potato and shredded chicken that I cooked in an Instant Pot. And maybe I'll throw ranch, or maybe I'll throw some seasoning, or maybe some avocado. But other than that, I'm like, yeah, I know I'll eat that. I know it makes me feel good. And maybe it doesn't taste that good, but if I'm on my lunch break, I'm not really thinking about, I don't know. Food is fuel.
At the end of the day, it is.
Yeah, as one of my friends said, it'll make a turd. I asked him, I was asking about food. He said, yeah, that's pretty good. I'll make a turd. That'll make a turd. I said, yeah, I guess you're right. So you're doing that, and then you're also doing Zoom cooking classes. Is that correct? I don't know if that's ongoing, but I remember you telling me.
Well, I am doing a Zoom cooking class every Sunday. So today would be a Sunday as well. And we did Cook-a-Von today, which is fun. That's been a lot of fun. I think it's gotten me to be a better teacher, which I think is the biggest. That's been teaching has been the hardest part of going from a cook to a chef. Is it's like, hey, you're a pretty good cook. You understand cooking, and you come to work on time, and you don't fuck around. So how about you're in charge of things now? And I think there's not much training in becoming a chef. I'm just gonna pop this here beer.
Yeah, please
Forgot
do.
that I had some down here. And so I think that I think this, from what I've talked to other managers, when as my friends have become managers, I think the managing of people is just this very, very difficult thing to get people to respect and listen to you is just very different than what you're used to.
Yeah, you're right. And then that's
so I think
yeah.
So I was just saying, so these cooking classes have been, I think, taught me that the baseline is different for everybody, and how to be a better teacher. I think that's definitely helped.
I feel like that comes through in your videos a lot, because that's one thing that I've noticed with all the videos, like with everybody whose videos aren't yours, you can tell that we just screw around and cook for fun. And, maybe we come out with a product that tastes good or whatever, like the end result is all right. But listening to you talk, it sounds so effortless. And that's frustrating for me, because I spend, several hours like getting the right angle, and sometimes I'll script out what I'm going to say, and I try to come up with almost storyboards to
Oh, I
make
don't do
sure.
any of that. Yeah.
See, I do that to make sure that the composition of the video like follows what I think makes a good video, and I go back and I watch my stuff quite a bit, because I want to make a good product. If I'm going to do something, I want it to look good. I want to be able to show it to anybody, and maybe it's not professional, maybe nobody cares about it, but if I think it's cool, then if I think it looks like I care, then I think it's good. But I watch yours. And yours are so easy to watch. Yours are so easy to watch. And you can tell that you might not do any of that stuff, but the way that you present what you're going to do, the way that you measure things out, the materials, I realize I don't own a whisk. I've had a whisk envy. Watching you even whisk something up, I'm like, man, I need to get one of those because I don't have a whisk in this house. And so I think that's funny. I feel like I could spend so much time. I mean, I even go through and spend time chopping and editing up my voice, what I say. I try to eliminate breaths. I say a lot. I always say what we're going to do next, or here's what we're going to do. Like half of what I'm saying are those little phrases that have nothing to do. And so it takes me a long time to edit those out. And I watch yours and it's, there's none of that, it's so natural. It's so natural. And I wanted you to know that like I noticed that, and I enjoy your videos so much because it's just so clear that you actually know what you're doing versus us dicking around making grilled cheese and cooking pork shoulders all day and stuff like that. So
Jim, that's a really nice thing to say. I'm actually kind of touched.
I promise you, I would not tell you that unless that's how I felt. But I mean, it's absolutely true. Like that's even why on our little Instagram handle recently, I've been like tinkering with because you only have X amount of characters to describe what you're doing. And I think I eventually landed on where one actual chef and his friends, share everyday tales from the kitchen, because it's just so clear when you watch these videos. Like, there's people that are just having a good time, and I think there's merit in that, just showing like this is what it looks like when a normal person cooks. Not that that's even interesting to anybody, but yeah, watching you do something is it's really enjoyable, and it makes me realize I'll probably spend my entire lifetime and never sound as natural or as intentional. But I'll try. I've got a lot of time to try, so hopefully, knock on wood.
That's the
goal.
I mean, I don't know what to say, Jim. I'm thank you.
Well,
That
keep making videos, and I
keep
keep making videos, and I look forward to a sourdough Saturday. And now that Whole 30 is done, that's actually a phenomenal segment, actually, because Whole 30 is kind of the reason why we're even, getting into this podcast today. But I know that Alyssa was really impressed with your sourdough bread, and hopefully we can try out some of those recipes, because I'd really like to try my hand at baking, because I've never really messed around with it before, and it's kind of this, other art form within the culinary world that to me, there's like a lot of prestige. Like that's kind of next level, is getting into the baking world. So hopefully with your videos,
I do want to say, I don't think I said it when you talked about it, but yes, baking is a complete other world, and I don't think I learned that until I worked with a absurdly talented baker. When I worked with her at the Bartolotta's, and we were in situations in which she would need to cook, and she was clueless, just absolutely clueless in cooking. And I'm just like, I just didn't get it. I'm like, well, Annie, you can bake, and you're the best. I mean, you can make these like super intricate desserts and that are just beautiful looking, but she couldn't make the simplest things in a restaurant. And that, I mean, and she would say like, can you do this very simple baking thing? And the answer would be no. So I mean, it really is, and that's how they teach it in culinary school. It is two different worlds.
Well,
and
one thing that's interesting to me,
I have so much respect.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I have so much respect for bakers and what they can do, because it's so beautiful in my eyes. I really enjoy. I mean, I tried to make macaroons as a Christmas gift for somebody, and everything was good. Man, what is that called? The egg whites and the sugar, everything like was perfect. I can follow a recipe really well. But as soon as it took like something like piping it out, that's when everything fell apart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just a certain amount of like finesse and touch in baking that I just don't have. And that's, maybe that's why I'm interested in it, because it's
Yeah,
another skill,
to me,
another feather in the cap.
baking parallels a lot of other art forms too. So Alyssa is a ceramics artist, and I know recently on Netflix I've been watching this reality. It's like a competition show, Blown Away. Have you ever seen it, Blown Away? It's just about glass blowers. I mean, it's another like art competition show.
No.
But you look at all these, you talk to ceramics artists and you look at these glass blowers and stuff like that. And what makes me think about baking is all of them seem to say, like, never fall in love with the piece that you're making on until it's completely finished. Because it's nothing until it either, for ceramics, it would be until it comes out of the, until it comes out of the kiln, right? Because you can
Sure.
make the perfect form. You can, get it fired the first time. The glaze where you add the color can go well, and then you do it again. But if anything goes wrong throughout that process, then the entire piece could be garbage. It doesn't matter how good steps 1 through 9 are. If on step 10 something goes bad or something like that. Same thing with the glass blowing in this show. They always say, so like something breaks halfway and they're like in love with it, and they say never fall in love with it until it's done, because you're just going to break your own heart. I feel like with baking that's similar too, right? Like maybe it is. Maybe that's not true, but.
No, I think that's very accurate. And Jim, I know we got to go back to Whole 30. I just want to share a quick story from my Portland experience.
Oh, take your time. Yeah, Whole 30 is kind of that's kind of B. So we'll get on to B whenever we get there.
So I was working in this bakery. This was like, I was working with an MOF. There's some sort of documentary on Netflix that shows you what it takes to be an MOF.
What is an
But
MOF?
This is a French. It's like it's something French. It's
okay.
I could butcher it, but it's like it's three French words. And if you ever see a French chef and he has the French flag as his collar, he has earned MOF.
Okay.
So it is this very the
prestigious.
top of the line,
Yeah.
Artisan guild, kind of like old school, been going for hundreds of years, this kind of thing. Anyway, so I was working under him. He was the owner of this bakery in Portland, Oregon, straight out of France, and he had like legit like pastry chefs working, like the best of the best pastry chefs working under him. And I'm this new guy. This is one of my first jobs. I'm trying to have a good stand. So I decided to fill everybody's, this girl that's been kind of helping me out. She's a good pastry chef. So I decided to fill up her things. She has, a thing of salt, a thing of sugar, some flour. I fill up all of her things. She already had left for the day. I'm about to leave, and I fill up all of her things. I go on the next day, and she's getting complaints on some of the tarts that she made. And the day goes on, more complaints. And finally, she tries one, and she realizes that the sugar that I filled up for her, I filled up with salt. So I had filled up an entire thing of salt that she'd be making pastries out of all day instead of sugar. So yeah, just going back to what you said, yeah, like you can do all these steps, and maybe it's not step 10 out of 10, maybe it's step 4 out of 10 that you fuck up.
Yeah, and you have no idea, right? You have no idea.
And you have no idea.
Yeah, I suppose that's that's the double-edged sword, right? That's what I suppose. Probably when you get it right, that probably makes it that much sweeter if you get an end result that you can really be proud of.
Yeah.
Or just treat the sugar as sugar and salt as salt, and that's probably a good idea. Was she pissed? What happened? Did you come clean?
She was so pissed.
I believe it. Yeah, probably. But you let her know, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was like, oh yeah, I filled those up.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I suppose a meeker person would have just swept that under the rug and let her. Maybe that would have started her eventual decline or fall into. She just thought she was crazy, or who knows? I don't really know. But good for you for you did the right thing, and I think that shows the character that I've come to really appreciate in you, Michael. Yeah, Mike or Mike. I don't know. You're Michael now, but you were Mike growing up. I go back and forth, I think.
I don't really care.
No, yeah, no, you don't care. You don't care at all. So then, what do you think? Are we in an okay segue to Whole30?
Let's go into Whole30.
So we're going to go into Whole30. So today is January 31st, which for folks who are counting, January 1st Whole30 is a really popular thing. I don't know when it got popular, but it's a thing to do. I know for me personally, I think my first Whole30 was in probably January of, I'll bet 2017, 17 or 18. It would have been 17 or 18 because I know Alyssa and I started dating and she did dry January. It was a thing that had become a thing for her. So the first year we were dating, I did dry January with her because I like a challenge. You know, I'm always about what's the next thing I'm going to try to do. And then the following year, I think Whole30 had gotten on my radar for some reason. I don't remember how. Maybe I'd heard about it or had a friend. I know one of the gals that we graduated high school with, Stephanie Jansen. Now, it's either Grunke or Granke. I'm not sure. But she's I think she's the official dietitian for Whole30, I'm pretty sure. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I did know that.
Yeah. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I knew about it from her, but Michael, for those who are listening who are not initiated, who are not familiar, do you want to explain what Whole30 is? Go ahead, you go for it, and I'll chime in if I feel like it.
You can fill in the gaps, yeah. So it is I'd say, intensive diet. For 30 days, you do not have any alcohol, sugar, added sugar, refined sugar, any legumes, except for there's some like gray area with that, with like green beans and pea pods. No dairy. I feel like I'm missing a lot here.
Gluten.
No grains. Grains is a big one. Is that it?
Corn. Corn is out. Is soy a legume?
Soy is a legume and corn is a grain.
Oh, I didn't know corn was a grain. Yeah, corn's legumes. I think that's it. So I know all of the major food groups that could potentially have an inflammatory or negative effect on the system. I think that's it. I think that you hit all the groups, though. To me, I think that you hit every one of them. So, so for 30 days, cut them out for 30 days. And then I think the genesis of the program was to help people who maybe had food sensitivities, food allergies. Maybe they had some underlying health concerns. Maybe it was bad skin, energy levels, GI stuff. I mean, I feel like I've heard, inflammation. I've heard testimonials on like a million different things. But they're like, if anything's wrong with your health, try a Whole30 just to clear it up and check the before and after and see how you feel. For 30 days. So like you said, incredibly intensive. Now, is this your first Whole30? How many Whole30s have you done? Have you done more than one?
This would be my third. I think the first I did was maybe about five years ago. I learned about it through CrossFit.
Oh, okay.
When I was in that gym. And then I did another one somewhere probably about halfway between then and now. This is my third one. I really only did it because you did it.
Yeah, that your first? Oh, you mean this year? That was this year? Because I brought it up. Yeah,
this is my third one. Yeah.
That's right. So then, so you got it through Whole30. What about or you did it through the CrossFit gym? So what about Whole30? Like drew you to it? Like somebody brought it up, and was it just, I don't know, like a social, do it with another group? They were talking about it. Were you interested in doing one, or why? What made you decide to do one or try it out?
I've always been big into, let thy food be thy medicine. Isn't that a Shakespeare quote?
Sure. I don't know. Sounds like it.
I've always liked restrictive diets. I think it's kind of weird that we drink the milk of a cow. I've been into the idea that we're not made to eat grains. So these have all been like ideas that I'm into. Obviously, in the restaurant industry, it's kind of hard to partake in those. But it's always been. I always like messing around with what you eat and seeing results from that.
Yeah. So then this year, so this is your third. We just finished. How did your Whole30 go? So it's January 2021. How was your Whole30?
Can compared to so the first one I did, I was obviously, I was in CrossFit, so I was working out a lot at the time, no kid. And I think I went through all the emotions that they advertise. You feel great, and then you feel terrible, then you feel like even better than great, and then you feel bad, and then you feel like just, unstoppable. I think they call it the tiger blood.
Tiger blood. That's right. The tiger blood.
Yeah. And I went through all those emotions. And this time, I just kind of felt the same. I'll just be honest. I felt the same the entire way through.
Yeah.
Just kind of, I lived off of sweet potatoes and dates and eggs. And yeah, I was expecting to get a lot out of it. I mean, I lost, spoiler alert, I did lose like about 11 to 12 pounds.
Hell yeah.
But I didn't feel the emotional response. How did you do? How did you feel?
I parallel your experience almost to a T. So this is, I think, maybe the 4th year in a row I've done it. I did it. There was a sober October, maybe it was last year. No, sober October was 2019, and I did a whole 30. I think I made it about 25 days. I told you this, but I found out that the coconut water I was drinking all through it, there was also a hiking challenge component. So October hiking in Phoenix is still really hot. And the goal of the month was to hike the most miles. That was like the physical fitness challenge, and I got so into it. Like, I got militant. I was like angry about how obsessed I was with just demolishing the rest of the field, which I did. I think 128 miles is how many miles I hiked in that October. I quit on the whole 30 that year because I found out that the coconut water from Costco has added sugar. And I didn't bother to check the label because I saw coconut water and was like, well, that's one of my staples. It's fine. And it wasn't until I was on my 3rd liter of this stuff that I realized there was 20 grams of added sugar in it. I was so pissed. But pretty similar to you. Actually, so the first whole 30 I ever did was very similar to you, where you go through the range of motions, and it was a huge undertaking for me. And I did the thing. I mean, 1 week before, I was probably throwing stuff out of the pantry. I got the cookbook. I purchased an Instant Pot. I was on the Reddit forum for a month prior, researching, understanding what to expect. I basically treated it the same way as I did when I quit smoking cigarettes, where I put in this just immense mental preparation before setting out. And the first one was really hard for me, really hard. Not having any alcohol was tricky, not going out. And I was the person where I was militant. I get so into these things, but I would call, if we were going to go get food with a couple or some friends out, I would call the restaurant ahead of time and ask to speak to the chef to figure out what kind of oil they would use on their grills. If I was going to get a chicken breast or something like that, to make sure it was a compliant oil and stuff like that. But what I found is that after I was done with my first whole 30, most of my cooking practices I borrowed from there. So, I mean, I eat pretty close to paleo just most of the time around the house. I mean, every now and then maybe I'll want to get more protein, so I'll bring in some dairy. Maybe I'll have Greek yogurt. Sometimes I'll have cheese around. But, grains, I don't eat a lot of grains. Although moving to Texas, tortillas, I was on, last year was a big tortilla year for me, for sure. I had a lot of corn and flour tortillas, but this one was pretty simple. I got irritated with the no drinking a few times, but because we're not going out to eat much, and I've been primarily working from home, it was same with you. I didn't feel great. I know that through the holidays, I'd wake up feeling a little foggy, and that probably was being hungover a little bit, but I know that cutting out drinking about 2 or 3 days into the month, I felt a lot better when I woke up. And same thing, I think I lost about 12 pounds throughout the month, which is awesome. But other than that, no, I didn't have any of the euphoric, emotional, I can conquer the world or anything like that. It was just kind of business as usual. So
I think the most difficult thing for me the first time around was going out to eat and hanging out with friends, which is 2 things we can't do right now. That made it significantly easier.
Yeah, definitely right. This is probably the best year for Whole 30, or between this year, because last year in January, COVID wasn't really. It was it was starting, but there weren't any
It was
precautions.
Thing, but we didn't know how big of a thing.
No, we had no idea. It was something that we were kind of hearing about, but it was still abroad and not something that impacted us in any way. So it was still business as usual in terms of the day-to-day life. So this year, you're right. I mean, this is like the year to do a Whole30 because all of those tempting situations that are historically pretty frustrating are really a non-issue. So yeah, same. Whole30, it was good. Saved a lot of money, that's for sure. I know Alyssa and I, we went out to eat today. We went out to brunch as a kind of our reintroduction celebration for our accomplishments or whatever. And all told, we went out to brunch and then we went and got a drink at the brewery right close to our house afterwards. And by the time we were done, it was like $100 for like a meal and like a round of drinks one other place. And we like on our way home, we're like, what just happened? You know, because we hadn't eaten out the entire month. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like, yeah, that's a lot of money. That's crazy. Yeah, that's a week. And people talk about Whole30. They're like, it's such a pain in the butt because if you want to buy compliant bacon, it's going to be like, you know, $16 a pound or whatever it is. And if you look at the actual numbers, it's like, no, that's, you know, that's not preferable. And, you know, once Whole30 is done, I'm not going to do like premium ingredients, but oh my God, like one meal on that is just, it was mind boggling. I regret nothing, but, yeah, with the wedding, another postponed wedding. It's like, yeah, with looking at all the finances and things going on, you're like, oh my God, like Whole30 is great for saving money. That's for sure. I suppose, but I don't know. So then, one thing I wanted to know. So Whole30 is done. Did you treat yourself to anything today? Did you wake up? Did you have a twinkle in your eye? Was it like Christmas morning getting out of bed today?
Well, not all of us are in San Antonio. So today I woke up to about a foot of snow.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I don't mean to laugh. The pictures are beautiful.
Which, no, honestly, I'm so happy to see it. It was a beautiful thing to see. Just like, you know, one of those days that everybody is kind of like has the same objective around the neighborhood and everybody's shoveling or like snow plowing. So I plowed about 4 houses today because I am lucky enough to have a very big snowplow, which my elderly neighbor, she bought us a plow, and with the unsaid thing of like, you are plowing my sidewalk and garage and all that stuff. So
when you say plow, do you mean blower? You mean a snow blower?
Sorry, yeah, I'm sorry, blower.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I thought you meant a plow for your CRV, right?
Yeah,
I thought you were talking about throwing a plow on the front of your CRV. I'm like, oh man, that's awesome.
No, a blower. So I did hers, I did ours, I did the neighbors on the other sides, I did, everybody, all the people close to me that I know that didn't have a snow blower today, I did theirs. So I was out there for a good hour and a half.
Attaboy.
Blowing.
That's great.
Was, fun. Yeah.
People helping people.
And then,
go ahead.
So I just, the treat that I did have for myself was a thick sliced sourdough bread with eggs, not fried in ghee. It was fried in butter. And
that was that nice. Kerrygold?
It was the Kerrygold, yes. I'm
buying Kerrygold butter. I had no idea that's. I guess that's what you do, is what you say, right? That's where it's at. It's
Irish grass fed.
Yeah.
What more could you ask for?
All right. I can, I'm trying to think, what did I have today? Oh yeah, I started my day with a cookie, a glazed sugar cookie that Alyssa brought home on Friday from her girls' basketball team's victory. It was the end of her high school basketball team that she coaches for. One of the boosters made, or I don't know, they somehow got these glazed cookies and she put one in the fridge. But I didn't realize this. Apparently she put it in the fridge for us to split. I didn't know that. I woke up today like still with a little sleep dirt in my eyes, went to the fridge, opened that up, and I just crushed that thing. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like sugar buzzed by like 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, this is great. I'm like the drug addict, like out of rehab, just ready to go, like have some fun. So that was good.
I just cracked open. So I've had now 4 beers and 2 cocktails.
That's actually, I did want to ask what, so this is, the food is one thing, but, being able to have a little libation on a Sunday, especially on a snowy day when you start off, plowing. I'll use plow because you're the local. I'll adapt to your language. Plowing everybody's driveways and sidewalks and stuff. So, walk me through what did you imbibe in? I don't know if I use that word right, but what do we got?
So about 12 days into Whole 30, I saw a good deal at the liquor store of $5 off some rye. So I bought that for myself to kind of get me through, the next week and a half or 2.5 weeks until 30 days. So I had that sitting around. Some Knob Creek rye.
Oh, nice. Yep.
And then I bought some a Baltic Porter. I bought today, which is a lagered high gravity porter.
Who from?
So I had
where's it from?
4 of those. Third Space, I believe.
Is that Third Space? Is that a Wisconsin brewery? Where are they from?
It's a Milwaukee, local Milwaukee. I had some of these. This is a hazy IPA, so I had one of those.
Nice. Just
sitting down with you to start out with. So yeah, I made a couple of Manhattans with the rye. Had a lot of beers.
Attaboy.
Taught the cooking class because it's usually it's pretty slow teaching that cooking class. Yeah, so it's been nice. Yourself, Jim? Have you had anything?
I did, yeah. I really wanted to wait until the podcast, but we didn't start until 8:00, and it was like 73 degrees and just like the most beautiful bluebird day. Like, so going to a patio for lunch and not having a drink was completely out of the question. So I had, let me see. So at lunch, we went to Dos Serenos, which is a brewery that opened up in Southtown San Antonio maybe a year or 2 ago. We go there. Their food is pretty good. So I had their Zeus Juice IPA. It's like a 7.1% West Coast styled IPA. That was my first one. That was my first drink. And with a warm day on the patio, it was great. It was really good. I wish they had lower ABV IPAs there, but 7 is like just the standard for what they have. And then after that, I followed it up with a Bock because it kind of had a spring vibe. So I followed it up with one of their Bocks.
Yeah, tis the season.
Tis the season for sure, and that was phenomenal.
Do you know the story of Bocks?
No, I do not. What's the story of Bock? I know it's it's a German style. That's all I really know. I know the profile, but I don't know.
So the German monks would make them during Lent. So that's why they're high caloric and low alcohol. And they would fast during Lent, and they'd drink Bocks.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So
that makes me feel...
keep the calories up. But
okay. Well,
that's why it's always a springtime beer, too.
Oh, man, that's unfortunate, too. Because, that's interesting because they had on the menu, they had the calories listed with the ABV. And they had a pint of that Bock at 150 calories, which was relatively low compared to the other ones. And they said that one came in at like almost 7%, which I thought was interesting for a Bock. I usually think of a Bock as like a low ABV lager with some really, really nice, like, malty characters to it like it's got good body, good taste, low ABV. It's like my grandpa's like favorite profile. That was like his thing. Like flavor and low ABV was like that was his joint. But they said that this one was lower, so I thought it was too good to be true. So it seems like I had an inverted Bock where they had it listed as low calorie, high ABV, but it's actually the opposite. I'll have to tell them.
That's what that's the story I heard.
I like your version. That makes sense to me. So, well, I don't know. We had that, and then afterwards we went to Freetail, which is a brewery that's right over the tracks from our house. It's about a block away. We realized they just opened up a patio that's dog-friendly. We had both of our dogs with us, and I realized that from their patio you can actually see the roof of our house. So it's a stone's throw away from our house, and I am a Mug Club member of that brewery. So late last year, I spent $100, and then I get a 22-ounce glass mug that I get pint pours for the duration of the year. And on Sundays, they do $3 pints, so I get $3 22-ounce pours every Sunday for the entire year. So I got their pale ale. It's just kind of middle of the road, 5% pale ale, good flavor, not too crazy, and it was great. And then now I'm having I poured myself 2 fingers of Diplomatico spiced rum, which I got turned on to by my father, Dennis Schultz. He's a big guy. Diplomatico. This rum, it's so good. I'm not even a rum person, but like this rum is like my favorite sipping spirit. It's so good.
See, I was just gonna say you're a rum person though, because I think you drink the most rum of anybody I know.
I do, but even it's just this one spirit. I've never purchased. I think I once bought a bottle of Mount Gay rum like 10 years ago after Mark told me about Mount Gay, or I think it was Mark that was talking about Mount Gay. And I thought it was funny at the time. So I was like, oh, well, I'll get a bottle of that. I think it was awful, or I don't know. I'm not even a rum person. I just am this spirit. And I just got turned on to it by my dad. And now, I've got a bar cart with, I've got a little bit of bourbon. Basil Hayden's is a scotch I don't mind. I've got some decent gin and so like a decent little bar cart, but this is really the spirit that I sip on. It's just this rum, but I'm not a rum guy. Maybe I am. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. But that's what we did today. And then I had fried wings. I had wings and then I had a black bean burger. That's what I decided to do, a black bean burger, and it was so good.
Bam lamb.
Bam blam. Yeah. So that's it. So yeah, that's the Whole30 recap. Yeah, it was a good Whole30. I'm glad it's done. I'm glad to drop the weight.
I always say this at the end of a Whole30, but I think I do want to start eating more like that throughout the week. Maybe not that like militant, but maybe, eat a little bit cleaner, as fellow Munching with Michael member Tress would say.
Sure.
Eat a little bit cleaner.
That was actually a question that I had for you was how much, or, because I would assume, I think it's probably fair to assume that you do the cooking for your family most of the time, I would assume, unless Rennie's helping you with the PB&J, you're
Michelle,
probably.
I've been with my wife for 10 years now, and she has never made dinner, not once.
I think that's probably, do you think that's why she locked you down?
I don't offer much else.
I don't believe that for a second. You've got a cute little wee Rennie running around. That's probably significant. I mean, it's not like you carried her or anything like that, but you helped out a little bit.
No.
Okay. All right. So that was it. So she was in it for the meals then. So you being in charge of everything. So Whole30 then, the makeup of Whole30, how does that compare to what your just, typical weekly cooking looks like? Is it a huge deviation, or, do you have staples throughout the week that aren't, I don't know, is it a radical shift in what you usually do?
It is absolutely a radical shift, and I won't continue it for them. So as you know, and our listeners do not know, my wife is pregnant again.
So
and
wonderful.
I have a 2.25-year-old. So, she's 2 years, 3 months. So they pretty much live off of noodles and, rice, those kind of things.
Yeah.
So it's just not in the cards for me to make family meals. But
Sure.
for the entire month of January, I made my own meal, and then I made them a meal.
Man.
And it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. So I think I can see myself continuing to do that.
That's a lot of dishes.
It's a lot of.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine. Now, Michelle doesn't cook. Does she help out with the dishes?
We switch off the bath for Ren, my daughter, and the dishes.
Okay.
So she will sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. So you guys have a system, You guys use your dishwasher. Do you guys have a dishwasher?
We do.
Do you use the dishwasher?
I try not to, but Michelle's a big fan.
Yeah, we have a dishwasher in our home. We don't use it. I think I've run it maybe twice, and I think about that. I'm like, why don't we use the dishwasher? And then I just never do. Alyssa grew up in a house where it's supposed to be better, right?
It's very inefficient, and I try not to use it.
Okay, all right. Because it's inefficient? That's why you try not to use it?
Because it's a waste of water, and power.
Is it bad for your tools?
I would never stick a knife in a dishwasher.
Okay. We'll save this for the next podcast. But I've had other ideas where I want to talk about what can you not live without. This will be a different thing because I want to talk about your tools in the kitchen.
Okay.
Okay, so you would not throw a knife in the dishwasher ever?
Never.
Never. Okay.
Just really quickly for those who are still listening, almost 2 hours in, dishwashers wash through abrasives. They don't wash through soap. So it's pretty much like, it's not exactly, but it's like throwing sand, something that will hit off everything, all the dirt from your plates, right? So you don't want to wash your knives in an abrasive because it'll dull your knives. That's how they don't wash through soap; they wash through abrasive.
Interesting.
That's why you would never throw your knives in a dishwasher.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so for anything other than a knife, I hear abrasive, I'm like, that's awesome. That means I don't have to scrape the crap off my, plates. That one that's been sitting in the sink for a day and it's all crusty and dried out, just throw it in the dishwasher and it's good.
Yeah.
Because it's an abrasive. But for a nice edge, no, you don't want to do that.
No.
Good to know. All right. So then you guys split the dishes. You are not a dishwasher person. We also are not dishwasher people. I don't mind it actually doing dishes. You just kind of zone out, throw something on, and it's kind of, I don't want to say meditative, but it's like one of those little things. So, well, nice.
I feel like a lot of our listeners are listening to our dishes, to our podcast while doing the dishes.
Oh, actually, that would be, that's actually a pretty good avenue for advertisement. Listen to us while you do your dishes, and I hope to God that it doesn't take the entire episode. Has it really been almost 2 hours? Is that where we're at?
We are. What are we at? I saw it before. I can't get it.
Probably an hour and a half. It says 9:35. I know we probably started around 8:05. I'll bet. So it's probably been hour and a half of rolling. I think. Yeah, I'm recording this in GarageBand on my computer, and it just goes by the musical bars is how it goes. So we're at bar 2,491. So I don't know how much time that is. I just know that we're at that many measures. So,
is that a 4/4?
It is. Yeah, it's in 4/4. That is in 4/4. Good question. That's a great question. Yeah, 4/4, and then that's at a 120 BPM, 120 beats per minute. So that's the tempo, which is a decent tempo. That's kind of quick. It's not super fast, but it's pretty quick. Yeah. Well, let's take a look. Now, let me take a look at my list. Let me do a list recap because before we got on, I wanted to write things down on a list because I thought that we would have to follow this outline and I'd have to constantly check it. But this is actually the first time I'm looking at it. And it basically chronicled everything really nicely. So that's a success. I think. Yeah. I mean, I think this is pretty much the range of topics that I was looking for. Now, while you have the attention, are there any other topics that you wanted to talk about today while we're on?
No, I think we hit everything I wanted to talk about.
Very nice. Well, I'll tell you what.
Good.
Well, let's go ahead. I'm going to wrap up the recording. Stay on the line so we can touch base on this. But I'm going to go ahead and let our listeners go right now. So, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for joining us for the first episode of the Munching with Michael podcast. This was your Whole30 recap and introduction to the Godfather Michael. Keep listening. Please feel free to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram where we're regularly updating content. You can follow us on TikTok. We made a TikTok and we posted one TikTok. Maybe we'll have more of that. I don't really know. And then we'll be sure to keep these podcasts rolling. We've got some other stuff lined up, so stay tuned in the works. And I would say keep eating good. Michael, you got any other send-offs?
I think since this is a podcast, you're supposed to say, remember to rate and review.
Oh, okay. Rate and review, everybody. And hashtag keep eating good.